Hi, so my name is Rebecca. Rebecca Ritz. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am the Youth Services Coordinator at the Pride Center of Staten Island. The Pride Center of Staten Island is located at 25 Victory Boulevard. We're on the third floor on the corner of Victory and Bay. So I am in charge of all the youth services at the Pride Center. So I work with youth. The youngest youth I work with is 12 years old, and we go all the way up to 24 years old. Prior to COVID, I held 3 different in-person programs. Most of them were focused around social justice and just an opportunity for youth to get to know each other and socialize. It's important for LGBTQ and allied youth to meet with each other and build relationships with each other. It is certainly a lot less isolating when you are friends with other LGBT identified people, even allies as well. Programming wise, it's not just youth services. We do offer quite a few other programs at the Pride Center. There is a program called SAGE that is for Staten Island's finest LGBTQ seniors, ages 50 and above. And that's a pretty thriving program. Additionally, at the center, we have a fantastic HIV prevention programming that offers free and confidential testing. And it's also a great way to get safer sex supplies as well. And we do have an amazing counseling services team that provides free and confidential counseling, and that is for folks 14 years old and older. And Arthur is from the Education and Outreach department at the center. So he does all the lovely educating, talking to people. I don't know if you want to say a little bit about what you do, Arthur.
So I do what Rebecca's doing for you folks right now, but I do it all the time. I go around and I talk to different folks about, we do a few different workshop series. We do one on healthy relationships where we explore unique vulnerabilities for queer folks. And when it comes to healthy relationships, we do a cultural awareness training that we do as a general, how to understand what LGBT people in your life are going through and what language we're using. And now we're developing a new program where we're going to be doing restorative practices, where we're going to work predominantly with people of color to discuss the trauma of dealing with racism in your community and how to get involved in activism and how to get involved in just unpacking trauma in our everyday lives and microaggressions. And each week's going to be a skill share from a different community member. So those are just some of the things we do in my department.
Yeah, so we have a variety of different services at the center. Again, I'm going to stress that they're all free and confidential. And particularly, I want to stress, with youth services as well, that is a very much confidential program. If someone were to call, I always like to say this, if someone were to call asking, oh, is so-and-so here? I'm their parent. I can't tell someone that information. Just kind of shows that we do value participant safety overall. And I'm going to say confidentiality 80 times. I love it. So I talk about the impacts of COVID. I did not talk that much about pronouns. It's important to say your pronouns or ask pronouns.
I think it's just respectful overall, because when you want to refer to someone, you want to make sure that you know how they want to be referred to as. And overall, I think it just has to do with a cultural sort of respect, I guess. And also I wanted to ask, should we also do the same thing?
That is a wonderful question. Thank you. I think it's good practice to put your pronouns in your name on Zoom, really anywhere. I even say it's good practice to even put it in your Instagram bio, or I have it on my LinkedIn, in my name. It's good practice because it normalizes asking for people's pronouns. And that when you don't see it, that's a good way. Hi, my name's Rebecca. My pronouns are she, her, hers. What are your pronouns? It normalizes it. And asking for pronouns is something that should certainly be more normalized.
Yeah.
And I do understand that some people think it's rude to ask for pronouns, but it's about the way that you're asking. You're not othering someone by doing so, or you don't want to other people by doing so.
The first time you ask someone what pronouns they use, it may feel awkward. You may even be worried that you'll offend the person. But assuming someone's gender and getting it wrong could actually be more offensive. This is called misgendering. If you happen to misgender someone, Acknowledge your mistake, but be aware that over-apologizing can just make things more uncomfortable. Just say you're sorry and move on. As with anything else, practice makes perfect, so let's walk through some examples to make it less intimidating. Here we are at the local library. Oh, sorry. Here we are at the local library with Brian and Star. Brian greets Star at the book club meeting.
Hi, my name is Brian. I use the pronouns he and him. How about you?
What's great about this scenario is that Brian shares his own pronouns before he asks for Star's. This breaks the ice and makes the exchange conversational rather than one-sided. Sometimes, you might be mid-conversation and realize that you never asked for the person's pronouns. It's not too late. If that were to happen, Brian might say,
Star, I just realized I never asked what pronouns you use.
Asking about pronouns is becoming more common, but not everyone is used to doing it. Putting pronouns into practice sometimes involves managing reactions. If Star responds with,
Why are you asking me this? Isn't it clear?
Brian might say,
I ask everyone this question because I want to be respectful and not make any assumptions.
If Star is like,
Pronouns? What do you mean?
Brian might respond,
I mean, do you use the pronouns he, him, she, her, they, them, or something else?
Keep in mind, singling people out can make them feel uncomfortable, so if you're in a group setting, you'll want to ask everyone what pronouns they use, not just the people you're unsure about. And be sure to share your pronouns as well. Whether you realize it or not, by doing this on a regular basis, you're changing the culture around you.
Something that I learned also from what you were saying before was just how important it is to just like normalize it, like you were saying, because actually I never really noticed that because I've always like thought for myself, I was like, oh, well, like, isn't it like obvious? But then it is like pretty problematic to assume that there is one specific way that like a gender looks like. So I guess it is important to really like just make it more normalized, like you said. And like even just like watching that video, like I definitely feel like I understand it a lot more.
No, thank you for that. It is something that's still like super like just important to normalize. And I would say like the first couple times maybe you're in a group setting and you're like bringing up your pronouns, it could feel awkward if you have gone around the room and no one has mentioned their pronouns, and then you're like you say your name and then your pronouns. Some people might kind of look at you like, what? But that also might be something that makes someone else feel more comfortable as well. Like, oh, someone else mentioned pronouns. So it's kind of like one of those things as well. So yeah, thank you. Okay. Are there any questions about pronouns or just comments?
I have a question actually.
Sure.
So for the people that have like self-identifying pronouns, like how do I say it? If I accidentally refer to them as they, would that seem as misgendering them?
So it's kind of like a good practice that before you meet someone and can have the opportunity to ask their pronouns, that you use like they, them pronouns. That way you're not making assumptions where you're using she, her, or he, him pronouns. But if someone, I do feel like I'm not necessarily the expert on like that particular response, because there are some people who are not exactly happy if they are referred to by they, them pronouns. Some people don't like to be referred to by they, them pronouns. That is another thing, that if you were to use the not like the incorrect pronouns with someone, you would just use the correct pronouns and you move forward like with it. So before you meet someone, they, them pronouns are a great way to refer to them or talk to them until you know their pronouns. I would say in some cases though, if you do use they, them pronouns with someone who has told you, oh, I only use he, him pronouns, that is kind of like up to the person if they might take that some like in a way that like hurts them, I guess. Sorry, words.
For us as an agency, we default to they, them. So if Rebecca walks into the center for the first time and they're a new client and I don't know anything about them, even though their name is Rebecca and they may present femininely, I'm still going to use they, them to talk about this person until Rebecca says to me, hey, I use she, her pronouns. Once I have her pronouns, then I'll start applying them. And then there are also contingencies of people who I've been in meetings with who say, I don't like to use any pronouns, please just use my name. So that's another way you can kind of default with, if you're not sure of someone's pronouns, just to refer to them by name. So I could keep saying things like Rebecca does this and Rebecca does that without saying she or her.
Sometimes you might forget someone's pronouns and get kind of nervous. So like I know I have just used someone's name until I had a moment to ask them maybe again, like I'm sorry, would you mind letting me know your pronouns again? And then the person tells you their pronouns, and then you just use the pronouns that person asked that you use. So using someone's name, Arthur, yes, that is amazing. Thank you.